Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today I have several cards made with pan pastel backgrounds. To create these cards, I used the penny black red rubber stamp. This one's called Rendezvous. It features a large tree and birds flying in the background. I start with my pan pastels and I use the burnt sienna for the ground. Pan pastels are artist's pastels, and they are in pans instead of in the little crayons. I lost a little bit of the footage there of my first layer, but I can tell you that the second color that I used was magenta, and then after that I used permanent red. On top of permanent red I used yellow and then orange. No, I'm sorry, I didn't use any orange. After the yellow, I switched over to a blue color, and that top blue is ultramarine blue. After I finished, I used a colorless blender to blend all the colors together, and then I used my stamp with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink to stamp onto that colored background. As you can see, it's very dramatic, the pan pastels with the silhouette in the front. So this is card number one. Turned out pretty nice, I think. I tried to match it to the background of the packaging, and it's not quite the right match. So I go in and start another one just to try to match the colors a little bit better. And basically, when you get your pan pastels, I bought the starter sets that came in these palettes. And I'm starting now with the blue. And I'm starting that at the top is the ultramarine blue. So I thought, this time I'm going to start with the blue and work my way down instead of with the dark and work my way up. After I used the blue, I switched over to my yellows and my oranges. And I go in with that bright yellow color. And I'm using a sponge tool that's specially made for pan pastels. Some people use makeup blending tools, but they're not as effective as the tools that are specially made for pan pastels. Now I'm using some orange, and after orange, I'm starting in with my red. Okay, and this is called permanent red. And after permanent red, I start with magenta. So those are the colors that I used for my second card. And I think it's a closer match to what is represented on the packaging. Okay, I even went in there with some of that dark color, that red iron oxide at the bottom. And then I take the colorless blender and I just blend it all together. Once I'm done blending it, I can put it into my stamp positioner tool, use my Nocturne ink, and blend the stamp the image onto the panel. Looks like I'm adding a little bit more blue here just to make it a little bit more dramatic. And then again, going in with my colorless blender, putting away the pan pastels, grabbing my stamp positioner. That stamp is still in the same location that it was earlier, and going ahead with my Nocturne ink. You see the little handle that I have on my ink pad? That's something that Blue Knight Rubber Stamps created. You put a metal plate on the back of your ink pad and then the wooden block, and it's magnetic, and it just makes it a lot easier to hold. So there you go. That's a much better match with the packaging, I think. That first stamp is called Rendezvous by Penny Black. I'm just going to clean my stamp, and then I'm going to grab the second stamp, which is called Homeward. It's also by Penny Black. And I'm going to create the background for that next. Okay, so I'm getting that stamp out. You see that it has a picture on the packaging, and I'm not really going to go by that for this stamp. I'm sorry that I'm a little bit off the screen here, but I do get back into position here. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get some paper towels out and put it underneath my card. I'm using actually scratch paper, And I'm going to go ahead with my palettes here. And on this card, I'm trying to recreate that sunrise that I had a picture of on my iPad. So I start out with the Sunrise Sunset Pan Pastel palette, which has the reds, the yellows, the oranges, and some, I had purchased some earth tones too. So I'm starting with this dark color, which is red iron oxide. And then on top of that, I'm putting magenta. And then above magenta, I'm putting in some from my other pans, which are the blues, and I'm adding some phthalo blue and some turquoise. Now I'm just going to go ahead and blend all these together and go ahead and add some more turquoise to the sky. This wasn't quite the effect I was going for, so I just added some more of the purple. It's called violet. I have violet and I have turquoise. I'm using those colors on this first panel, and I thought, well, that's probably as good as that's going to get for me. It's a little darker than I wanted. Maybe it could be like seen at dusk, and I'm just using my VersaFine Clair again to ink the stamp and get a good impression, and it does a great job. One thing about the pan pastels, when you are finished with them, you do have to set them. You can use hairspray, you can use Krylon, anything that has a ability to set the chalk of the pan into the paper. All right, so I'm going to try again with this last card, trying to make my sky look like pink and blue, almost like cotton candy colors. And I'm going to start with these tools. Instead of just using my sponges, I thought I would shift over to these little palettes. Maybe it would give me some more control over my pan pastels. And looks like I'm going to start with some white, and then I'm going to add red over top of that to try to make a pink. And so I'm just trying to tone this red down so it's not so bright, and I've got white to do that. And I'm just trying to make some clouds, thinking about that morning when we went outside and it was all bright pink and blue and purple in the sky. You see, I'm adding a lot of white to my panel just to get that, so that when I do add my colors, they're a little bit muted. Then I switch over to the purples and the blues. I grab some turquoise. And I'm just using the tool to color in the sky. With pan pastels, you don't have to press hard. They're very easy to use. And if you have arthritis like me in your hands, it's easier than ink blending. And I think it makes a really cool effect. Now I'm adding a different color blue. I'm adding the ultramarine blue to give it a little bit of variety there. Looks like I'm going back in with some magenta now. Trying to mimic the look of clouds. I'm adding in some more what I'm trying to make look pink. It's actually the permanent red and white together. And then some more ultramarine blue. And then always going in with white on top of everything. This takes just a little bit of time, but in the end it makes for a really nice background. Sort of like that cotton candy sky. Pink and blue and purple. To clean these tools, I just wipe them off on paper towel. You don't have to take them to water or anything like that. When you wipe them from paper towel, the color that you're using, it might permanently stain it, but it doesn't stay on the applicator. Comes right off so that you can dip into another color without contaminating your pans. I'm going back in for some ultramarine blue. Just varying it so that it looks like a sky. Once I'm done with these, I put some sentiments on them and adhered them to some cardstock, black and navy. I'm just cleaning off my palette knives here. And I'm getting ready soon to stamp this image. Again, this is penny black and the stamp is called Homeward. I'm using the Tim Holtz stamp positioner. It works well with red rubber stamps. Okay. Just going over that again to get a good impression. I think it turned out really nice. There you go. There's a picture from my iPad to compare it to. I tried to mimic the nature scene that I thought was so pretty. Okay, we're at the end of the video, and I'm just going to show you what this would look like matted on a piece of black cardstock, how dramatic that is. I think it makes for a really great dramatic card. Here's my first card with the thinking of you sentiment. Actually, I made this card second. It looks great with the gold in the background. I just heat embossed the thinking of you with gold embossing powder and mounted it to the top of the card panel, just directly onto it. This next one is actually the first card that I made. You can see it has a lot more pink and light orange to it, a little bit of purple at the top, and the sentiment says, "Praying for you." I just popped that up with some foam. Here's our first card using Homeward, and it's more of a nighttime look to it, but I put the sentiment "Happy Birthday" in the top left hand corner. And then the last one has the cotton candy sky and the words "Happy Birthday" in the left hand corner with a bright pink text and a purple shadow. This was a die that I had from my stash from Stephanie Bernard from the Stamps of Life. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me as I create it with pan pastels. Don't forget to check the description box below, and information there will be on how you can find me on other social medias, as well as the products that I use. Thanks everyone. Have a hopeful day.